we wrap up our sessions, our 3 days of sessions, again, I want to express my gratitude for everyone just taking the time out for yourself to do this. I know for me personally, this has been not only exciting, but it's been a pleasure, and a lot of joy was put into this as I worked on my own presentation. I just kind of, because everybody see the hello, I am enjoying life. Is that what you're looking at? The slide?
Yes, that's what I see.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to make sure I had the right slide up and that you're not seeing my desktop just sit there. But just to tell you a little bit about myself, for those who don't know me, I'm also a faculty lead in the College of Arts and Sciences, and also a program lead for Applied Behavioral Science program, the Gerontology program, and now the Health and Human Service program. And in my long career in gerontology, I have spent a great deal of time presenting, particularly to caregivers, not only caregivers who are taking care of people with dementia or Alzheimer's, but also caregivers who are trying to figure out how to take care of themselves, and caregivers who take care of sick children or sick spouses or family members, or just themselves. And so in doing so, I am asked every year to do at least 3 or 4 presentations, particularly over the holiday break, or just for people trying to balance their work and their life and themselves and everything that they've got going on. Excuse me. I tell you, every time that I do this, I always find that I'm not doing 75% or if not 90% of what I'm trying to teach. So it's, or what I'm trying to share with everyone. So it's always great to kind of revisit this and relive it and remind myself that, you know, my perception today, the perception that I try to take on is that I'm enjoying my life. And then some days I feel like this, and some days we all kind of feel like this too, where everything's just blah, and you're not really quite sure how to feel. But this dog, I think, kind of expresses that for a lot of us. And a lot of what I have here, is a lot of what I've shared in different presentations that I've done to try to help people kind of take a closer look at their time that they spend during their break, if they have a break. Some people don't have a break during the holidays, especially if you have children, you've got other things to manage or to take care of at home. But you have to ask yourself, for everyone, the holidays may mean nothing, they may mean something. But for every single person, because we're all different, they mean, you know, it means different things. So for some, it's being with family. To some, it's kind of a sense of togetherness. For some, it's a school break. For some, it's all those things, trying to relive traditions. This is always kind of a challenge for everyone. For kids, sometimes this break or this holiday tradition starts for them the day after Halloween. You know, they're already starting to see holiday stuff kind of come forward. And whatever holiday you celebrate, you know, that becomes important for the children as well. So for some, it just depends. For some, it's going to be a challenge. You know, you see that quote there, I love a challenge as long as it's easy. One of the other things to kind of consider that I'm always focused on, that I'm always thinking about, is to have that positive mindset, to really take a close look at what my perception is of that moment, of what I'm experiencing, and then also to kind of see what the reality is that's around me. So a lot of what we've learned over these last few days has so much to do about our own perception. And so sometimes I just like to remind myself the importance of just keeping it simple, and what that means. Are these slides moving along? Can someone make sure and tell me that? I guess you can. Michelle just saw that.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yep.
Someone put this up on Facebook, and I absolutely love this little kid. I have no idea who he is. I wanted to send his parents a letter, tell him I want to be his godmother, just because he just feels the way that I try and choose to feel every day of my life. I mean, he is very adorable. I love the way he's just kind of chilled. I'm sure some of his parents kind of posed him that way, but to me, this is the simple life. I like that he's kind of drinking that milk in the back with the straw and the little bottle back there. But more importantly, his great haircut. I just love his haircut. So decide how you're going to experience your day, because it's not just necessarily, let's say, the holiday break, but it could just be every single day when you wake up And let's say you have that meditation moment that Michelle was talking about, and being mindful. Decide how you're going to experience it. And so once you make that decision, you know, we know that things can happen in life. We know that things can bring us down. We know that things can stress us out. We know that someone can upset us. But there are things that we're going to experience that, especially as we move forward and you're trying to experience some level of a stress-free holiday season or a stress-free break. So think about what your traditions are. And a lot of individuals that I've talked to in my life, caregivers, have often said to me that part of what stresses them out is the fact that they're trying to maintain a tradition that maybe needs a little bit of a change. Changing traditions, though, can be pretty traumatic for families and pretty stressful because everybody wants things to kind of be the same way. So, you know, we have the kind of nostalgia that's attached to their traditions as well. You know, we have these memories of the way things used to be, but sometimes it's important to kind of make that change for all of us. I have a sister who will not budge from tradition. She wants she wants it on the same day, the same time, the same events, the same food, everything, you know, from the entree all the way to the dessert. She wants every single thing to be the same. I am the complete opposite. I'm like all for going to a drive-through and buying stuff and throwing it on the table. Of course, that's just me, but that's not always going to work because it kind of removes some of that nostalgia that helps people to feel better about themselves. But that also puts a lot of pressure on us as well. So you have to decide, what am I there for? Am I there for the togetherness? Am I going to be able to handle the togetherness? I think in Dr. McMahon's talk, she talked about what some of that can mean for someone, how that can be stressful for people to think about being together with family and friends for that particular length of time, or just for your kids being home from school and being together with them 24/7 during the week when you may not be used to it. So, I mean, that can bring on some stress. Let me just go ahead and say, and I think I've mentioned this before, but humor is essential I use it often in my daily life. I mostly am laughing at myself. Some people just take themselves so seriously that makes me laugh too, that they're taking something so seriously when they just don't know how to kind of just let go and kind of move forward. But I try not to do that for myself. So you'll see a lot of little humorous pictures that are about to pop up here in the next few minutes. You know, the other thing is to kind of focus and listen to what people around you are saying. Your children, your family, your friends, your colleagues. What are they trying to tell you? A lot of times you're like, oh my gosh, you know, this person's telling me the same old thing over and over again. You start zoning out, like, I need to go to the grocery store. I need to buy some bread. I need to get ready for dinner. What am I going to do on Saturday? So you start zoning out and you're really not listening, because taking the moment, being in the moment to listen to someone will help you understand what their needs may be, but more importantly, listening to yourself. So taking time off from school, or just taking that break, it involves great expectations. For some people might be stressed about just thinking about taking time off. For some, it may be a time of sadness. Maybe there's an anniversary of someone's death, just not even liking just the holidays in general, or just your break in general, whatever that might mean, feeling overwhelmed before you've even gotten there. So you have to ask yourself, if I wake up in the morning and I feel overwhelmed and I'm like, okay, why am I overwhelmed? I just slept. What is making me feel that? It's my anticipation of what I think my day is going to be like, especially those days when you have 175 things to do, a lot to take care of, a lot that you need to manage. And you know what? You can only manage so much, but the one most important thing that you can manage is how you react to seeing all of those things and how you react to being around all those things. Someone yesterday mentioned a guilt, and I told them that I was going to talk a little bit about that today. A long time ago, not that long ago, but about 10 years ago, for 5 years, I took a meditation course with this woman in the San Antonio area, that I live in San Antonio, Texas, who was just amazing. We did it for an hour and a half once a week, and it was only a max of 10 students in the class. We met in this really great, wonderful meditation room, and we all learned not only how to meditate, but how to really take the time to really be in touch with not only, we heard a lot about being in touch with yourself physically, but being in touch with ourself emotionally and mentally as well, where you were at that moment, because that has a big influence on how you're going to, how your day is going to go about, what your day is going to be like. And sometimes it's just a matter of, maybe this is not a good day. I need to kind of stay away from people until I figure out what's going on and I can manage this. Or maybe this is just a time for me just to put this aside and I'll deal with it later. However you need to manage it, whatever you need to do, that's important. But one thing she taught us was that guilt, and again, this is coming from her, it's not research based, but guilt is upside down anger, and anger is upside down fear. So if you take that guilt that you're feeling, a lot of it can come from those associated emotions of fear and anger. And this is something that she taught us that really has gone a long way and helped with me to understand when some of that guilt comes forward. Because sometimes with the holidays, those of you who celebrate holidays, whatever holiday you celebrate, it does have that impact for some people. And a lot of it has to do with children. It has a lot to do with family members. It has to do with like past experiences. And so learning how to live in the moment so that you can take the time to understand your own perception of where you're at that particular moment in itself. So this woman is the only person living in the moment. Look at her. Look how she's paying attention. Of course, maybe this is a little gerontologist in me, but look how she's just taking the moment to really get a good view as to what she sees, what she's seeing around her, and take that experience in. I cannot tell you how important it is to put those phones down. My sister and my family get so upset with me because after a certain time in the evening, it's usually around 8 or 9, unless I know someone's going to call, my phone is off. I tell people this, look, if there's an emergency, then come and knock on my door because I'm not putting my phone on. I'm not going to mess with my phone. A lot of times I'm even just obviously on the computer grading discussion questions and assignments, but those are things that I take care of, that I need to take care of for myself. But that being in the moment that we've been talking about, to me, this is a really good example. You showing, your moments are, let me look back at that picture that I just took to kind of experience that moment. But I tell you what, there's a lot of people that have a lot of great memories in their mind without having taken that picture. So do all these things I learned during the Symposium really work? Well, I mean, the bottom line is we're going to find out on our next slide, but do they all work? We talked about yesterday about the importance of applying for that and applying an application of what that means. But the truth is, it's really up to you. That's the reality. It's really up for you to decide if you're going to take the time to apply those, if you're going to take the time to make those changes every day, every hour, each moment, it's up to you. So applying that and making that become your reality, your daily reality, is all up to you. I just thought this was funny. That's why I have it up there. I still look at it and laugh, but so what is your perception at this moment? Where are you at right now at this particular moment? Who are you? I mean, I don't mean that we don't have to really talk about that too much or get too deep into that. But I think it's important to understand what your perception is right now. You know how sometimes when someone you don't really care for very much, or someone who's just irritating you starts to talk and you just kind of tune them out and you go to a very different place, but it really does start to physically affect the way you feel. But also every time you're around that person, you're going to have the same impression and the same perception, and you're really not going to get very far with any of them. So we have choices. The reality is, we have these, I was telling somebody about that I like to do this talk about, and I didn't do it today, but about the top 10 reasons not to have top 10 reasons, about why not to believe in top 10 reasons. So it's kind of a little humorous, little funny talk, But a big part of it has to do with the fact is because so much is our responsibility. So much is up to us, and so much is about our own choices and the life choices that we make on a daily basis. Remember, every hour, every moment, every day. Oh, let me go back. You have two choices in life. Someone brought up Bob Dylan. There he is. Get busy living or get busy dying. But 1 minute of anger weakens the immune system for 4 to 5 hours. 1 minute of laughter boosts the immune system for 24 hours. Do the right thing. That's right, Stephanie, from Frozen 2. So let's get busy laughing. That's what I say all the time. I have to tell you a funny story. I went to, I think it was Target. I went and did a little shopping over the weekend. And there was a young girl working there. She told me it was only her second day of work. She was a cashier. And everything that I bought was $17.37. And I gave her $20.37. So what should my change be? Yes, I only spent $17.37, which I couldn't believe when I walked out of there. So my change should be what? Okay, $3. I know I can barely do the math myself. Well, here's what she said to me when I handed her that. She said, what do you want me to do with this? And I thought she was referring to the change. Well, that was the first time that anyone had ever paid with cash since she'd been there in her 2 days. So I had a choice right there of how I was going to react. Because my immediate response was to be, really, you don't know what that is? It's cash. And then I changed it, and I just kind of told her, anyway, we had a really good experience at that moment, because I decided that that's the experience not only that I wanted to have, but that I wanted her to have as well. That's the whole point of that story. So I wanted to share that. This is how your light changes the world. I just love this picture, and I think it's so important. And this is just a daily goal of mine, which I don't always achieve. I can be honest about that, which probably most of us don't. But you know what? I like to tell people, if you've not taken the moment to be in my light, and if I don't take the moment to be in yours, then we're both missing out. Even when you don't think that you're spreading that light, it's important. The other thing that's part of our reality is that we feel that there's a certain sense of rejection that comes with the word no. If we want something, or we hope for something, or we're thinking about something that we would like to have happen in our lives, and we don't get it, we think that that's a rejection. But the truth is, something else I learned from my meditation teacher is, no is not rejection. It's only an answer to your question. It's only a word. So it's only an answer to your question. If you look at, depending on how you look at it, how you're going to face it means a lot. And sometimes with that perception comes a tremendous amount of changes that we all have to go through. Sometimes they're not always good, but they're going to take us to a different place. And again, how we look at that is also very important. So resistance to that change is futile. This is a topic that's a very important topic for a lot of us over the last few months, but resistance is futile to that change. We have to be able to work whatever needs to happen for any of us to work through what those changes might be, to decide what we want to see at the end of that. I told someone yesterday, and that person's in this room, so they're going to laugh when I repeat it. But I told someone yesterday, I said, I will do whatever just needs to be done. This particular issue, I'm not going to fight it to the death. And I had decided that. I first wanted to kind of fight it as hard as I could, but then I thought, it's really, why? It's going to happen the way it's going to happen. And so you choosing your battles is also very important. And resistance to that change is so futile. It does nothing but go back to all those things that happen to us when we're stressed out, what happens to us physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So sometimes your perception is why me? I don't go to Taco Bell, but I just thought this was a funny sign. But I think that, that's how some people feel sometimes, like, this is my life, I missed out on that. That didn't happen for me. And again, I like to tell people, depending on what's going on in your life, because sometimes things can be pretty traumatic for people, and you have to go through those things, and eventually you'll heal as you move forward. You might need some help or support to make that happen, but those things can happen for you. But other times, I think it just depends on not only choosing what those battles are, but it deciding what your reaction to that's going to be. It's going to be very important. And I just like this picture because it really is all good. It really is all good. I don't know why. I don't know if this is a real picture or somebody fixed this, but if you know what Labradors, they're really kind of easygoing animals. I think that's important to keep in mind. And then sometimes we have days like this, that you feel like, oh my gosh, everything that I could have possibly have done wrong is happening to me right now. And that's just the way that you feel. And I like to tell people, take those moments that you feel like that. I like to tell people that's my 5 minute an hour moment. If I decide that I'm going to have a moment like that, and trust me, in some days, in some months, in some weeks, in some situations, I've had moments like that for a whole week. But sometimes I have to decide and take ownership of what really is mine and what really belongs to someone else. Sometimes it's someone else's issues and it's not mine. Everything is going to be all right. Maybe not today, but eventually. And I really try to go on that. People have a lot of different sayings and different mantras and different prayers or whatever they do to kind of help themselves get through those moments. Just don't lose sight of what those are. I have, if those of you who ever come to visit me at my house, you will find mantras all over my office, and a margarita machine. No, I'm kidding about the margarita machine. It's not in my office. It's in my garage. I'm kidding. I don't have a margarita machine at all. But anyway, this is how I think I feel sometimes. It's just kind of balancing, our worlds. Sometimes you feel like that's exactly what's happening to you at that particular moment. You are just experiencing, that is it. I'm just hanging on right here, and that's what's happening. But you know what? Look, it's still there. It's still standing. It's still balancing. It's found its point. It's found its moment. It's found its situation. One of the things that I think is important, and I tell you, I cannot get this one down. I cannot get to the point of just not having expectations. I have so many expectations of people, of individuals. I always tell my caregivers, I always say to them, you cannot, it wouldn't our life, and I want each of you to think about this too, wouldn't our lives be so much easier if everyone did everything we wanted them to do the way we wanted them to do it every single time? Our family members, our friends, our coworkers, our supervisors, wouldn't that be great? The truth is that's never going to happen. The only thing that we can change is we can start to change the way in which we react to that. And so reducing all the pressure on ourselves and others to be a certain way. Everyone will figure it out in their own time and their own way. This is something that's always been very important to me. I've talked about this a lot with caregivers, and a lot when I was in private practice. I worked on a lot with this with caregivers, but somehow balancing our 4 worlds, which are emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical. And for everyone, this is all very, very different. But our ability and well-being, as you see, that is in the center of that. The center of it is well-being that you see here. And then, of course, all that surrounds us around that. So whatever that means for you, whatever way in which you balance your physical, mental, or spiritual world will help this to become centered. And so it's important that we think about that as often as we can. And let me just tell you, as it is for probably some of you, but for me, this can always be very difficult for a lot of different reasons. I always tell people sometimes when you work on one, then you kind of neglect the other, then you got to go back to that. And so you have to find a way to be able to balance all of that. This is a strong key to emotional and mental wellness, physical wellness, and to your well-being overall, is being able to learn how to do this. And let me just say something else in regards to frustration and anger and disappointment. Sometimes I just, you find those 1 or 2 or 3 friends that you can really pick up the phone and call and just vent. Sometimes you just need someone that you can trust implicitly. And if you don't have what I call those 3 o'clock in the afternoon and the 3 o'clock in the morning friends, you need to get some. Those people that you can pick up the phone no matter when, and number one, they're not going to hang up on you. But the other thing is to also be able to just say to them, I just need to vent and then I'll be okay. Sometimes you do have to get those things off your chest. So what is your perception? When you go into a situation, into a moment, when you start your day, when I woke up this morning, I was like, oh, I'm going to just change that whole presentation. I decided I'm not happy with it. I don't know what made me decide I wasn't happy with it. So, and then I just thought, Yvonne, you know what? You have to make a choice right now, or else you're going to stress yourself out the rest of this morning trying to redo this whole presentation. So I left it alone and I just let it be. And I think that was my perception of how I see people, of how I look at things, of how I approach them. If I don't feel like my perception is going to be in a healthy for either party, I just try to stay away from those individuals for a while till things change. And that includes my mailman, who cannot seem to quit folding my magazines. He just folds them in half and sticks them in the mailbox. And then I have all these folded up, I just don't like that. Anyway. All right. I just needed somebody to vent to, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen. So what is your reality check? I mean, check your reality ahead. Sometimes we don't know what that's going to bring, but your perception is your reality. We've heard that saying before. Unfortunately, I didn't make it up, but your perception is your reality. And there's so much truth to that. Like these birds watching their own reality TV show. I know that it's kind of funny, but I promise I won't send that to Paul, one of our faculty who likes chickens a lot. Never get into the thought that you're stuck with the way things are. Life changes every single moment, and so can you. So don't give in to your assumptions and speculations. Oh, I know it's going to be a horrible holiday, or I know it's going to be a horrible Saturday, or class is going to be terrible. I mean, you have to kind of decide that yourself. Make those decisions. And I just had this in there too, because I saw this, and I went to a party a couple of weeks ago, and I was in a conversation I didn't want to be in, just because I was like, I just didn't want to be in it. And so that's what I did. And you know what? We changed the subject and people started laughing, and we moved on from there. So you might want to try this at your holiday events or family gatherings, or just with your kids, see what happens when that happens. So it's as simple as this. It's cold outside when you go outside and it's cold. It goes back to just keeping your thoughts simple and everything you do simple as well. This is just me sometimes on a daily basis.
Yvonne, I really think we need to put on our speakers so we can see how many people are laughing, because you have me instant. Oh my goodness. Just maybe because I know you so well.
Okay. But it is, I like that someone, anyway, how people start talking about the weather. I mean, you just like, is it cold outside? I don't know. Go outside. If it's cold, it's cold. I mean, but I like this little guy, reminds me of me. And that's, my perception of some things of how I handle. Staying positive doesn't mean you have to be happy all the time. It means that even on hard days, you know that there are better ones coming. This is definitely a mantra, a little picture in my office. I keep track of that. I believe in that. I believe in that. I believe in that. Thank you, guys.